Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So the last Sunday we discussed from this Adi Leela chapter 17, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in his youth, leading up to his taking sannyas. And the previous verses we talked about the Trinadapi Shunicheda, Taroriva, Sahishnuna, Avanina, Manadera, Kirtaniya Sadahari. That verse is so important that one should tie it around his neck and carry with him all the time. So as tolerant as a tree and as humble as a blade of grass, we can continue to do this chanting or devotional service. So this is being initiated here. Yes.
প্রভু আজ্ঞায় করো এই শ্লোক আচরণ অবশ্য পাইবে তবে শ্রীকৃষ্ণ চরণ
One must strictly follow the principles given by Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. If one simply follows in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, so this is very important that we follow in the footsteps, following and imitating. We should always remember our position, and at the same time should not feel discouraged and continue to follow. One must strictly follow the principles given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So principles are applicable to everyone. Now how we follow the principles may vary from person to person according to the capacity. For example, the 4 regulatory principles are there. Some people are able to follow very strictly, some less strict, and some like that. But nevertheless, one must strictly follow the principles given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this verse, if one simply follows in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and the Goswamis, certainly he will achieve the ultimate goal of life, the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Yes.
তবে প্রভু শ্রীবাসের গৃহে নিরন্তর রাত্রে সংকীর্তন কইল 1 সম্বৎসর
So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly led a congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the house of Srivas Thakur every night for 1 full year. So we see interesting thing is for 1 full year Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not propagate this Chaitanya chanting. He was doing only with the devotees. So like we do japa in the morning, we do it for privately. Then publicly, then we do the kirtans. Next. When Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he did Shatakoti Namajapa, 1 billion names in the sitting in the Dham for 10 years continuously before he started preaching. Yes.
কপাট দিয়া কীর্তন করে পরম আবেশে পাষণ্ডে হাসিতে আইসে না পায় প্রবেশে
This is important. This ecstatic chanting was performed with the doors closed, so that non-believers who came to make fun could not gain entrance. Just like we are doing this Zoom session and not allowing some participants. We had that experience yesterday. So because this ecstatic chanting was performed with the doors closed, so that non-believers who came to make fun could not gain entrance. Purport: chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is open to everyone. But sometimes non-believers come to disturb the ceremony of chanting. So we want to hold open discourses on Bhagavad Gita, but the moment we do that, they create disturbance. They try to drag the attention to something else. So it is indicated herein that under such circumstances, the temple doors should be closed. Only bona fide chanters should be admitted. Others should not. But when there is large-scale congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we keep our temples open for everyone to join. And by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this policy has given good results.
কীর্তন শুনি বাহিরে তারা জ্বালি পুড়ি মারে শ্রীবাসের দুঃখ দিতে নানা যুক্তি করে
Thus the non-believers almost burned to ashes and died out of envy. To retaliate, they planned various ways to give trouble to Srivas Thakura. So the moment you take to devotional service, sometimes some people want to create disturbance. Thus the non-believers almost burned to ashes and died out of envy. To retaliate, they planned various ways to give trouble to Srivas Thakur.
একদিন বিপ্রনাম গোপাল চাপাল পাষণ্ডী প্রধান সেই দুর্মুখ বাচাল ভবানী পূজার সব সামগ্রী নানা রাত্রে শিবাসের দ্বারে স্থান লেপানা.
It's a very nice pastime. One night, while Kirtan was going on inside Srivas Thakura's house, a Brahmana named Chapal Gopal, he's a Brahmana actually, the chief of the non-believers, although he's a Brahmana, he is a non-believer, who was talkative and very rough in his speech. He placed all the paraphernalia for worshipping the goddess Durga outside Srivas Thakura door. So why did he do like that? This Brahmana, Gopal Chapal, wanted to defame Srivas Thakura by proving that he was actually a Shakta or a worshipper of Bhavani, the goddess Durga. Because he is worshipping goddess Durga, he wants to show that Srivas Thakura also worshipping goddess Durga. Then what else? He's thinking that he is doing all kinds of things inside his house. Because the worshippers of goddess Durga, they go to any extreme. They drink liquor, they eat meat, they engage in with women. So this way he is trying to prove that Srivas Thakur is keeping his doors closed and inside they're doing that some kind of thing like that. But he was actually, this Brahmana Gopal Chapal wanted to defame Srivas Thakur by proving that he was actually a Shakta, a worshipper of Bhavani, the goddess Durga, but was externally posing as a Vaishnava. In Bengal, there is a perpetual competition between the devotees of goddess Kali and the devotees of Lord Krishna. Generally, Bengalis, especially those who are meat eaters and drunkards, are very much attached to worshipping the goddess Durga, Kali. Shitala means smallpox, comes from Shitala Devi. And Chandi. Such devotees who are known as Shaktas, they worship the energy of the Lord, independent of the Lord. Our worshippers of the Shakti Tattva are always envious of Vaishnavas. Since Srivas Thakura was a well-known and respected Vaishnava in Navadvipa, Gopal Chapal wanted to reduce his prestige by bringing him down to the platform of the Shaktas. Therefore, outside Srivas Thakura's door, he placed various paraphernalia for worshipping Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, such as red flowers, because these red flowers are used to worship Lord Shiva. A plantain leaf, a pot of wine, a reddish sandalwood paste or kumkum. We don't use kumkum, we use chandan. In the morning, when Srivas Thakura saw all this paraphernalia in front of his door, he called for the respectable gentlemen of the neighborhood and showed them that at night he was worshipping Bhavani. So Srivas Thakura directly wanted to point out that it is not his work and someone else has done this. So people know that definitely Srivas Thakur won't do this. And if he admits that yes, I did this, then people will understand that someone else has done it. Very, very sorry. These gentlemen called for a sweeper to clean the place and purify it by sprinkling water. Because the public know that Srivas Thakur won't do this. They could understand that someone else has done this and is putting his blame on Srivas Thakur. And so they humbly cleaned up the place. And how did they clean it? By sprinkling water and cow dung there. This incident concerning Chapal Gopal is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavata. The Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is included in his book what is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavata.
কলার পাতা উপরে ধুইল ওর ফুল হরিদ্র সিন্দুর আর রক্তচন্দন তন্দুল.
On the upper portion of a plantain leaf, he placed such paraphernalia for worship as Odafula. Odafula means, I think,
जबा कुसुम,
a particular type of flower.
the red flower, the जबा कुसुम जिसको बोलते हैं.
Right. Hibiscus.
Hibiscus.
And Haridra means turmeric. We don't use turmeric because it induces lusty desires. The women, they put turmeric to attract the husband. So turmeric and vermilion means sindura, red kumkum, and red sandalwood, Rakta Chandana, red sandalwood, and rice, tandula.
মদ্য ভাণ্ডা পাশে ধরি নিজ ঘরে গেলা প্রাতঃকালে শ্রীবাস তাহা তা দেখিলা।
So this Mangalore, the place Mangalore near Udupi, it is named after Mangala Devi. So there are many temples. They offer wine and meat. The temples. So he placed a pot of wine beside all this, and in the morning when Srivas Thakura opened his door, he saw this paraphernalia.
বড় বড় লোক সব আনিল বলাইয়া সবারে কহে শ্রীবাস হাসিয়া হাসিয়া।
Srivas Thakura called for all the respectable gentlemen of the neighborhood and smilingly addressed them as follows. This is showing how humble Srivas Thakur is. So, Pranadipi Sunichena verse is being demonstrated here. He could have immediately protested, no, this fellow did that fellow did this, I didn't do. But he intelligently handled.
নিত্যরাত্রে করি আমি ভবানী পূজন আমার মহিমা দেখো ব্রাহ্মণ সজ্জন।
Gentlemen, every night I worship the goddess Bhavani. Since the paraphernalia for the worship is present here, now all you respectable Brahmanas and members of the higher caste can understand my position. So you prove something by reductio ad absurdum. Absurd means first you do something and contradict yourself. So purport, according to the Vedic system, there are 4 castes, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras. And below them are the Panchamas, literally members of the 5th group, or outcasts, who are lower than the Shudras. The higher caste, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, and even the Vaishyas were known as Brahmana Sajjana. The Brahmanas especially were known as Sajjana, or respectable gentlemen who guided the entire society. If there were disputes in the village, people would approach these respectable Brahmanas to settle them. Now it is very difficult to find such Brahmanas and Sajjanas, and thus every village and town is disrupted, that there is no peace and happiness anywhere. Previously, the people in the villages never went to courts or anything like that. They used to settle the matters immediately by going for panchayat. In that panchayat, all these respectable people will come and sort out the matter immediately. But such people are not found. To revive a fully cultured civilization, the scientific division of society into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras must be introduced all over the world. So this Prabhupada is talking about the outer society, those who will not take to devotion. At least they should institute this Varnashrama for them. Unless some people are trained as Brahmanas, there cannot be peace in human society.
তবে সব শিষ্ট লোক করে হাহাকার আইছে কর্ম হেথা কইল কোন দুরাচার।
Then all the assembled gentlemen exclaimed, "What is this? What is this? Who has performed such mischievous activities? Who is that sinful man?" So everyone could understand that Srivas Thakur will never do this. So then someone must have done it. And who is that? So in this way, that person is being exposed.
হাড়িকে আনিয়া সব দূর করাইল জল গোমায় দিয়া সেই স্থান লেপাইল।
They called for a sweeper, Adi, and then threw all the items of worship far away and cleansed the place by mopping it with a mixture of water and cow dung. Here it says Gomaya, cow dung. The men in Vedic society who engage in public sanitary activities like picking up stool and sweeping the street are called Hadis. sometimes they are untouchable, especially when engaged in their profession. Yet such hardis also have the right to become devotees. This is established by Sri Bhagavad Gita 9:32, where the Lord declares, Mam hipartabhyapasritya yepishu papa yonaya striyo vaishyastata shudrastipi yanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they are of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, and Shudras can attain the supreme destination. There are many untouchables of the lower caste in India, but according to Vaishnava principles, everyone is welcome to accept this Krishna consciousness movement on the spiritual platform of life and thus be freed from trouble. Neither equality nor fraternity is possible on the material platform, a brotherhood. Then, when Lord Chaitanya declares Trunadapi Shuni Cheda Tarodiva Sahishna, he indicates that one must be above the material conception of life. When one thoroughly understands that he is not the material body but a spiritual soul, he is even humbler than a man of the lower caste, for he is spiritually elevated. So he is fully situated on the platform of the soul, so he is not affected by the bodily conception. Such humility in which one thinks himself lower than the grass is called Sunichaya, Sunichat, Sunichataya. And being more tolerant than a tree is called Sahishnutva, forbearance. So, tolerance and forbearance. Being situated in devotional. How is this possible? Only when you are situated in devotional service. Not caring for the material conception of life is called Amanitva, indifference to material respect. The material respect today it may be there, tomorrow it may not be there. Yet a devotee thus situated is called Manadha, or he is prepared to give honor to others without hesitation. Because the more we accept respect, more problem. Mahatma Gandhi started the Harijana movement to purify the untouchables, but he was a failure because he thought that one should become a Harijana, a personal associate of Lord, through some kind of material adjustment. That is not possible. Unless one fully realizes that he is not the body but is a spiritual soul, there is no question of his becoming a Harijana. So the option, the process is available to everyone. But if someone is not taking up the process and still you call him a devotee, that is not proper. Those who do not follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciplic succession cannot distinguish between matter and spirit, and therefore all their ideas are but a mixed up a hodgepodge of problems. They are virtually lost in the bewildering network of Maya Devi. So if you want, someone can also read this translation purport instead of me and you just inside. Okay.
I want to read Bengali.
Okay.
3 দিন রহি সেই গোপাল চাপাল সর্বাঙ্গে হইল কুষ্ঠ বাহে রক্তধার
So after 3 days, leprosy attacked Gopal Chapal and blood oozed from sores all over his body. So the what is in the mind, it reflects in the body. That is so. Therefore, people were very sensitive to this. So even there's another Gopal Chakravarti. He offended Haridas Thakur when a meeting was organized by Govardhan Majumdar and the uncles of Raghunath Das Goswami, Kiranya and Govardhan Majumdar. So there he openly criticized Haridas Thakur for glorifying the holy name. And he challenged that if Haridas Thakur was wrong, his nose will melt with leprosy. On the contrary, his own nose was fell off due to leprosy. So after 3 days, leprosy attacked Gopal Chapal and blood oozed from the sores all over his body. So in this way, Srivas Thakur did not lose anything. Rather, the person who offended him, he got the effect.
সর্বাঙ্গ বেড়িল কীটে কাটে নিরন্তর অসহায় বেদনা দুঃখে জ্বলয় অন্তর
So generally, when someone offends us, our sinful reactions will go to that person. So we should, that's why we have to tolerate. Otherwise, if we will have to suffer our own sinful. So best is someone, if someone comes to offend us, we just tolerate so that he takes the sin. So incessantly covered with germs and insects, biting him all over his body, Gopal Chapal felt unbearable pain. His entire body burned in distress. So there were devotees in Russia, they were tortured like anything. And one person who tortured the devotee, he died in a car crash. So like this, many instances are there.
গঙ্গা ঘাটে বৃক্ষতলে রহে তা বসিয়া একদিন বলে কিছু প্রভুকে দেখিয়া
Since leprosy is an infectious disease, Gopal Chapal left the village to sit down on the bank of the Ganges underneath a tree. One day, however, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passing by and spoke to him as follows.
গ্রাম সম্বন্ধে আমি তোমার মাতুল ভাগিনা মুই কুষ্ঠ ব্যাধিতে হানাছি ব্যাকুল
My dear nephew, I am your maternal uncle in our village relationship. In the villages, normally they establish this kind of relation, even if it's not through bodily connection. Please see how greatly this attack of leprosy has afflicted me. Just like when Chandkazi, he called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, "You are my nephew." Although they don't have bodily connection, he established a connection based on his ancestors.
লোক সব উদ্ধারিতে তোমার অবতার মুনি বড় দুঃখী মোরে করহ উদ্ধার
As an incarnation of God, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I am also a greatly unhappy fallen soul. Kindly deliver me by your mercy. Although he knew this about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he disrespected him. So now he is put into a condition where he was begging for that purport. It appears that although Chapal Gopal was sinful, talkative, and insulting, he nevertheless had the qualification of simplicity. Thus, he believed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who had come to deliver all fallen souls. And he appealed for his own deliverance, seeking the mercy of the Lord. He did not know, however, that the deliverance of the fallen does not consist of curing their bodily diseases. Although it is also a fact that when a man is delivered from the material clutches, his material bodily diseases are automatically cured. Gopal Chapal simply wanted to be delivered from the bodily sufferings of leprosy, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although accepting his sincere appeal, wanted to inform him of the real cause of suffering. So that's why devotees sometimes go to the Lord and pray for the removal of the suffering. That Lord can do, but the moment we are not, if the God goes on solving our material problems, we won't address the real problem. So of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can remove this leprosy, but he wanted to remove the problem from the root, which is his offensive mentality. So that's how we have to solve our problems.
এত শুনি মহাপ্রভুর হইল ক্রুদ্ধ মন ক্রোধাবেশে বলে তারে তর্জন বচন
Hearing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared greatly angry, and in that angry mood, he spoke some words chastising him. Sometimes Krishna, after hearing Arjuna, he chastised him because he doesn't understand what is the root of the problem. He is certainly addressing the problem. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, as a spiritual master, sometimes may become angry when you tell him a problem.
আরে পাপী ভক্ত দ্বেষী তোরে না উদ্ধারিমো কোটি জন্ম এই মতে কিড়ায় খাওয়াইমো
Oh sinful person. So what is the real sin? Sin is offending the devotee. Even the normal sinful person, as long as he doesn't offend, that is okay. That offense is more than sin. Oh sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you. Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for many millions of years. Obviously, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't want him to suffer like this, but indirectly he's saying that you have to give up your offensive mentality and beg forgiveness from Sri Vashtag. We should note herein that all our sufferings in this material world especially from disease or due to our past sinful activities. And of all sinful activities, actions directed against a pure devotee out of sheer envy are considered extremely severe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted Gopal Chapal to understand the cause of his suffering. Any person who disturbs a pure devotee engaged in broadcasting the holy name of the Lord is certainly punished like Chapal Gopal. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As we shall see, one who offends a pure devotee can never satisfy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu unless and until he sincerely regrets his offense and thus rectifies it. I'm using two screens. I'm confused where to how to use the mouse. Okay.
শ্রীবাসে করাইলি তুই ভবানী পূজন কোটি জন্ম হবে তোর রৌরবে পতন
Raurava, yes, sir. You have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. In other words, he was blaspheming Srivas Thakur. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births. So, one who considers Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva to be equal to or independent of Lord Vishnu is said to be an atheist, Pashandi, because he's disrespecting not only Vishnu, he's disrespecting Lord Shiva and Brahma by putting them equal to Krishna. That's the first offense. So, you have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births per birth. There are many tantric followers, tantra, who wishing to eat meat and drink wine, practice the black art of worshipping the goddess Bhavani in a crematorium. So they go to the crematorium and worship this goddess Bhavani, and the ghostly followers of Bhavani, they fulfill their desires and they think that Bhavani is fulfilling their desires. So this meat and wine will not be accepted by Bhavani, but the ghostly followers of Bhavani. And they think that Bhavani has accepted it. Sometimes some people used to go and give Prabhupada something and they thought he accepted it, but they were not sure whether Prabhupada really took it. Maybe he gave it to someone else. So such fools who also consider this Bhavani Puja to be as good as worship of Lord Krishna in devotional service. Eighth offense is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as Karma Kanda. So some people think Karma Kanda is as good as doing devotion. But such abominable tantric activities performed by so-called swamis and yogis are herein condemned by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He declares that such Bhavani Puja for drinking wine and eating meat quickly plunges one into hellish life. The method of worship itself is already hellish, and its result must also be hellish and nothing more. That is the tamasic happiness is suffering from beginning to end. Many rascals say that whatever way one accepts, one will ultimately reach Brahman. Yato mat tato pat. It's Ramakrishna mission. They propagate this idea that you can eat whatever you want and still you can attain perfection. Yet we have see from this verse how such persons reach Brahman. Brahman spreads everywhere, but appreciation of Brahman in different objects leads to different results. In the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, the Lord says, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamyaham. I reward everyone according to his surrender unto me. So if they surrender to Brahman, they get something. If they surrender to Paramatma, they get one thing. If they surrender to Bhagavan, they get something. If they surrender to demigods, they get something. Mayavadi certainly realized Brahman in certain aspects, but realization of Brahman in the aspect of wine, women, and meat is not the same realization of Brahman that devotees achieve by chanting, dancing, and eating prasada. Mayavadi philosophers, so they argue that everything is an energy of the Lord, wine, women, and meat. So why can't we indulge in these things? Everything is created by God. Some people argue, see, God has created everything and we are using everything. So why are you blaming us? Mayavadi philosophers, being educated in paltry knowledge, think all sorts of Brahman realization one and the same. That is, we have to see God in everything. So God is even the poor man, Darijana, and they do not consider varieties. But although they are one in one sense, they are different also, simultaneously one and different. So we cannot put everything together. But although Krishna is everywhere by his inconceivable potency, he is simultaneously not everywhere. Thus, the Brahman realization of the Tantric cult is not the same Brahman realization as that of pure devotees. It's like the sun is there. The experience of the sun on the sun planet and the experience of the sun on the earth planet is totally different, although there are some similarities. So, he is punishable unless one reaches the highest platform of point of Brahman realization, Krishna consciousness, he is punishable. All people except Krishna conscious devotees are to some proportion pashandis or demons, and thus they are punishable by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, as stated below. So, God's energies, they put us into all types of trouble if we don't take to devotion. So, these other yogis and kuyogis, they only suffer.
পাষণ্ডী সম্হারিতে মোর এই অবতার, পাষণ্ডী সম্হারি ভক্তি করিমু প্রচার।
So, who is a Pashandi? Anyone who doesn't take to devotion, he is an atheist. I have appeared in this incarnation to kill the demons, Pashandis, and after killing them, to preach the cult of devotional service. So, he is there to kill the demoniac mentality and establish devotion. Lord Chaitanya's mission is the same as that of Lord Krishna, which he states in the Bhagavad Gita 4:7-8. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata apyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata and a predominant rise of religion, at that time I descend myself in order to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I advent myself millennium after millennium. Every one day of Brahma, here Krishna says. So what about the Dharma? There's decline of Dharma. Even now, why Krishna is not appearing? But as long as devotion is there, even if there's adharma, we can manage the situation. But when devotion goes away, then Krishna himself has to come. That is the main point. That is the real dharma. So these other dharmas, to handle that imbalance, some other incarnation can come. But to manage the loss of devotion, Krishna only can give devotion. So Krishna himself has come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give that devotion. As explained here, the real purpose of the incarnation of God is to kill the atheists and maintain the devotees. He does not say, like so many rascal incarnations, that atheists and demons are on the same platform. That Brahma, that Pandita, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmani Gavihastini, Shuni Cheva, Shupakecha, Pandita Samadarshana. So he sees that everyone is engaged in devotional service, but still they are not all on the same level. So devotion means everyone is serving God. The person in the jail and the person in the outside the jail are also serving the government. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Lord Sri Krishna, the real personality of God, does not advocate such an idea. Atheists are punishable, whereas devotees are to be protected. So the Lord's mercy comes in different ways. If you are a devotee, the mercy comes in one way. If you are non-devotee, the mercy comes in a different way. To maintain this principle is the mission of all avatars or incarnations. One must therefore identify an incarnation by his activities, not by popular votes or mental concoction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave protection to devotees and killed many demons in the course of his preaching work. So all this, the demons are the doubts, the misgivings, confusions. All this he has removed. He specifically mentioned that the Mayavadi philosophers are the greatest demons. Philosophy is the problem. Therefore, so he warned all others not to hear the Mayavada philosophy, Mayavada Bhashya Shunile Oye Sarunash. Simply by hearing the Mayavada interpretation of the Shastras, one is doomed. So they use any language and they say this is also decent. If you say this is abusive, the people will say no, it is also required.
এত বলি গেলা প্রভু করিতে গঙ্গা স্নান, সেই পাপী দুঃখ ভোগে না যায় পারণ।
After saying this, the Lord left to take his bath in the Ganges, and that sinful man did not give up his life but continued to suffer. Why? Because if you suffer, you end the suffering in this life. But if you die, then you will have to suffer in the next life. Some people think that if I commit suicide, then I can end my suffering. But the suffering will only continue into the next life. So better to tolerate. It appears that an offender of the Vaishnava continues to suffer and does not give up his life. Just like we see that Daksha was offended. Daksha offended Lord Shiva. So that suffering continued in many lives. We have actually seen that a great Vaishnava Aparadhi continuously suffered so much that it was difficult for him to move, and yet he did not die. This is the problem.
সন্ন্যাস করিয়া যদি যবে প্রভু নীলাচল গেলা, তথা হইতে যাবে কুলিয়া গ্রামে আইল, তবে সেই পাপী প্রভুর লইল শরণ, হিত উপদেশ কইল হইয় করুণ।
So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after accepting the renounced order of life, went to Jagannath Puri and then came back to the village of Kulia, upon his return, that sinful man took shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord, being merciful to him, gave him instruction for his benefit. So immediately the Lord did not forgive him, but later when he took sannyas, so he was doing punishing as well as showing the way. So that's when we can punish someone. Unless you cannot correct him, you should not punish someone. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he first punished him and then showed the way for correction. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Anubhashya has given the following note in connection with the village Kulia. The village originally known as Kulia was developed into what is now the city of Navadvipa. Known as that Navadvipa town railway station is there in this Aparadha Bhanjan Kulia part. That's where this Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu temple is there. In various authorized books like the Bhakti Ratnakara, Chaitanya Charitamrta, Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka, and Chaitanya Bhagavata, it is mentioned that the village of Kulia is on the western side of the Ganges. Even now, within the area known as Koladvipa is related to Varahadev. Varahadev, when he lifted the earth, the hind legs were resting on this Koladvipa. There is a place known as Kuhara Ganja and a place called Kuliyar Daha, both within the jurisdiction of the present municipality of Navadvip. In the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the two villages on the western side of the Ganges named Kulia and Pahadpura both belong to the jurisdiction of Bahira Dvipa. At that time, the place on the eastern side of the Ganges, now known as Antardvipa, was known as Navadvipa. Antardvipa means where Mayapur Chandrodaya temple is there. At that time, the place on the eastern side of the Ganges, now known as Antardvipa, was known as Navadvipa. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu time, the original Navadvipa was in Mayapur. As at Sri Mayapur, that place is still known as Dvipera Matha. There is another place of the name Kulia near Kanchanapada, but it's not the same Kulia mentioned here. It cannot be accepted as Aparadha Bhanjanera Pata, the place where the offense was executed, for that occurred in the above mentioned Kulia in the western side of the Gangas. For business reasons, many various persons oppose excavation of the real place, and sometimes they advertise unauthorized places as the authorized one. Should be to get some make some advantage to set up all the marketplaces, because the market is located in Navadvip town. Even now, devotees go to cross the Ganges and go to Navadvip to buy all the paraphernalia. So people, they want to establish their market. So they say this is the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took birth, and to attract the customers.
শ্রীবাস পণ্ডিতের স্থানে আছে অপরাধ, তথা যাহা কেহ যদি করেন প্রসাদ, তবে তোর হবে এই পাপ বিমোচন, যদি পুনা আইছে নাহি করো আচরণ।
You have committed an offense at the lotus feet of Sri Srivas Thakur. Offense at the lotus feet means you have disrespected him. You don't know his importance. The Lord said, first you must go there and beg for his mercy. The devotee will anyhow forgive. But for your own purification, you have to beg for his mercy. By begging to the devotee, we don't become inferior. Indirectly, we are begging to the Lord only. Because the devotee is the via media for giving us the mercy of the Lord. First, you must go there and beg for his mercy, and then if he gives you his blessings, you do not commit such sins again. You will be freed from these reactions. So the problem is, as long as we maintain the offensive mentality, the sinful reactions will start manifesting. But when we beg forgiveness, it will prevent most of the sinful reactions. So these blessings the devotee is able to give on behalf of the Lord himself.
তবে বিপ্র লইল আসি শ্রীবাস শরণ তাহার কৃপায় হইল পাপ বিমোচন.
Just like we see Ambarish Maharaja was offended by Durvasa Muni, he went all the way up to Vaikuntha also and fell at the feet of the Lord. But the Lord said, I cannot do anything. You have to go back to my devotee Ambarish. So similar thing is happening here. Then the Brahmana Chapal Gopal went to Srivas Thakur and took shelter at his lotus feet. And by Srivas Thakur's mercy, he was freed from all sinful reactions. In other words, he had to take to Hari Kirtana instead of Kali Kirtana.
আর এক বিপ্র আইল কীর্তন দেখিতে দ্বারে কপাট না পাইল ভেতরে যাইতে.
This is another pastime, interesting one. Another Brahmana came to see the Kirtana performance, but the door was closed and he could not enter the hall. First instance, Chapal Gopal also Brahmana, and he offended the Lord, but he got transformed in one way. This is another extreme. This Brahmana, the first Brahmana was talkative, a loose character. This Brahmana is too strict. He also could not enter the Niyamagraha, either for not following the rules or following the rules to the extreme. These are disqualifications.
ফিরি গেলা বিপ্র ঘরে মনে দুঃখ পানা আর দিন প্রভুকে কহে গঙ্গায় লাগ পানা.
He returned home. Fire means went back. Fire gela, went back. He returned home with an unhappy mind. But on the next day, he met Lord Chaitanya on the bank of the Ganges and spoke to him. Okay. This Brahmana will curse Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is another Brahmana. Okay.
শাপিব তোমারে মুনি পানাচি মন দুঃখ পাইতা ছিন্দিয়া শাপে প্রচন্ড দুর্মুখ.
That Brahmana was expert in talking harshly and cursing others. Thus he broke his sacred thread and declared, I shall now curse you, for your behavior has greatly aggrieved me. So sometimes when we are doing devotion, some fellow will get offended, although we had no intention of offending, and they may also try to inflict pain on us. This is an example. So that also we accept it, and we will see that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed we can benefit by curse also.
সংসার সুখ তোমার হোক বিনাশ শাপ শুনি প্রভুর চিত্তে হইল উল্লাস.
The Brahmana cursed the Lord, you shall be bereft of all material happiness. When the Lord heard this, he felt great jubilation within himself. Just like Lord Krishna, he had all his descendants, but they were so powerful that nobody can kill them. So, but Gandhari cursed that your whole dynasty will perish. So then Lord Krishna was smiling because nobody can kill them except themselves. They fight among themselves. And through this curse of Gandhari, they quarreled among themselves and this way went back to their abode. The Brahmana cursed the Lord, you shall be bereft of all material happiness. When the Lord heard this, he felt great jubilation within himself. So, being a Brahmana, you are entitled to a lot of happiness. But the Lord did not want that. Rather, he wanted real happiness on the spiritual platform that is possible through taking sannyasa or performing bhakti yoga.
প্রভুর শাপ বার্তা যেই শুনি শ্রদ্ধাবান ব্রহ্ম শাপ হইতে তার হয় পরিত্রাণ।
Any faithful person who hears of this Brahmanas cursing Lord Chaitanya is delivered from all Brahminical curses. Very important. Any faithful person who hears of this Brahmanas cursing Lord Chaitanya is delivered from all Brahminical curses. What does it mean? Purport. One should know with firm conviction that the Lord, being transcendental, is never subject to any curse or benediction. And sometimes we take to devotion, we get so many problems. And we think when I was not doing devotion, I was much better off. But actually, here we see only ordinary living entities are subjected to curses and the punishment of Yamaraja. As the Supreme Personality Godhead, just like when we took the vaccine, immediately some of us got fever or some problem. But that means that the medicine is working. So similarly, if devotees also suffering means the devotion is really working. It's not that devotion we do immediately all problems will go away. Problems are coming means we are getting more purified. Only ordinary living entity is subjected to curses and the punishment of Yamaraj. As the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is beyond such punishments and benedictions. When one understands this fact with faith and love, so we should not think that devotees are also being punished or they have to get some blessing. So as long as we do devotion, there's no punishment or requirement for any blessing. When one understands this fact with faith and love, we should not grudgingly accept it. He personally becomes free from all curses uttered by Brahmanas or anyone else. This incident is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavata.
মুকুন্দ দত্তার হইল দণ্ড পরশাদ খান্ডিল তাহার চিত্তের সব অবসাদ।
Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed Mukunda Datta with punishment and in that way vanquished all his mental depression. So it's also another interesting pastime. Mukunda Datta was once forbidden to enter the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of his mixing with the Mayavadi impersonals. So this Mukunda Datta would go and hear discourses by Mayavadis. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like that. So when Lord Chaitanya manifested his Mahaprakasha, he called all the devotees one after another and blessed them. While Mukunda Datta also stood outside the door. The devotees informed the Lord that Mukunda Datta was waiting outside, but the Lord replied, I shall not soon be pleased with Mukunda Datta, for though he explains devotional service among devotees, he then goes to Mayavadis to hear from them the Yoga Vashishta Ramayana, which is full of Mayavadi philosophy. This Mukunda Datta is not only attending devotee program, he is also going and attending the Mayavadi programs. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like that. For this, I am greatly displeased with him. Hearing the Lord speak in that way, Mukunda Datta, standing outside, was exceedingly glad the Lord would at some time be pleased with him. So actually, the devotees asked, so when can he get your mercy? He said, after millions of lives. Then that when they told this to this Mukunda Datta, he said, very happy. At least after a million lives, I will get the association of Lord Chaitanya. So, at least at some time, he would, Lord would at some time be pleased with him, although he was not pleased at that moment. But when the Lord understood that Mukunda Datta was going to give up the association of the Mayavadis for good, he was pleased and he at once called to see Mukunda. So the Lord can understand what is going on in our heart. Thus he delivered him from association of the Mayavadis. So he had a weakness. His weakness was he is attending devotee programs and also going to Mayavadi. He knows it's a problem, but he is not able to give it up. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood his weakness, by his blessings, he could give up that and gave him the association of pure devotees.
আচার্য গোসাইর প্রভু করে গুরু ভক্তি তাহাতে আচার্য বড় হয় দুঃখমতি।
Lord Chaitanya respected Advaita Acharya as a spiritual master because Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and Ishwar Puri, they accepted initiation from Madhavendra Puri. So more or less, he is Advaita Acharya and Ishwar Puri are like the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Chaitanya respected Advaita Acharya as spiritual master, but Advaita Acharya Prabhu was greatly aggrieved by such behavior because Advaitacharya only invited the Lord to come and he did not like the Lord treating him like a spiritual master.
भांगी कोरी ज्ञान मार्ग कोरिलो व्याख्यान क्रोधावेशे प्रभु तारे कोइलो अवज्ञान.
So somehow he wanted the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so he wanted to make him angry, just like Bhishma wanted to make Krishna angry. So thus he whimsically began to explain the path of philosophical speculation. So we cannot imitate this, but it's all pastimes of the Lord. He whimsically began to explain the path of philosophical speculation, and the Lord, in his anger, seemingly disrespected him. In fact, he beat him up. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started beating Advaitacharya, and he was very happy.
তবে আচার্য গোসাইর আনন্দ হইল লজ্জিত হইয়া প্রভু প্রসাদ করিল.
At that time, Advaitacharya was greatly pleased. The Lord understood this, and he was somewhat ashamed, but he offered Advaitacharya his benediction. So just like Bhishma, Krishna went to kill Bhishma. Seeing that, Bhishma was very pleased. Advaitacharya was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, Ishwarapuri's spiritual master. Therefore, Ishwarapuri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was Advaitacharya's god brother. In view of this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treated Advaitacharya as his spiritual master, but Sri Advaitacharya did not like this behavior of Lord Chaitanya, for he wanted to be treated as his eternal servant. Advaita Prabhu's aspiration was to be a servant of the Lord, not his spiritual master. He therefore devised a plan to antagonize the Lord. He began to explain the path of philosophical speculation in the midst of some unfortunate Mayavadis. As here it says, unfortunate Mayavadis. Sometimes the devotee also goes to this kind of programs. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about this, he immediately went there and in a very angry mood began to beat Advaitacharya. At that time, Advaitacharya, greatly pleased, began to dance, saying, "Just to see how my desire has now been fulfilled. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to treat me honorably for so long, but now he is treating me neglectfully. This is my reward. His affection for me is so great that he wanted to save me from the hands of the Mayavadis." Hearing this statement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was somewhat ashamed, but he was very pleased with Advaita Acharya. Sometimes you can make Krishna angry and also please him, just like Yashoda angered Lord Damodar. I think we can do this next week. We'll stop here.
All right, I actually saw now only Rumpa and Ram Prabhu are there. They can read the Bengali, no?
Yes, yes.
Better than me. So next week we'll make them read the Bengali, okay?
Yes, yes.
You are saying okay, they have to say okay, no?
Yes.
You will do the Bengali next week, Rumpa and Ram Prabhu? One shlok Rumpa can do, next shlok Ram Prabhu can do, like that. Both of you can do the Bengali, Prabhu can do the English and explanation. Kaushik Prabhu is also there. No, Karthik Prabhu is, sorry. But Karthik Prabhu, how are you able to come?
What's your time there, Prabhu? We're 5.5 hours behind.
4.5, Prabhuji. My time is 3:30. So like I can manage on weekends, but weekdays I will be in office.
Prabhu, you are safe, no?
Yeah, no problem, Mataji. Here it's fine. Like only in Ukraine it's happening here.
Yeah, but nothing is coming up to you all, no? You all are fine, no?
Yeah.
You be careful, Prabhu.
Yes. You
Sure,
keep
sure.
track of the situation, Prabhu. First sign, just take the next flight and come.
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
It may spread to other countries.
Chances are there.
Okay, thank you all very much. Please join for the daily sessions. And please preparation. Simply you have to read that several times and you explain based on your understanding. If any corrections required, we can always do that. Vancha kalpatarupyascha dupasham divyevacha pitanam bhavanebhyo. So because of the hacking problem, we will be changing the frequently the ID and password for these sessions. Okay, please track all the morning chanting, evening programs. Hare Krishna.